Good afternoon and welcome to Chargers Outside Zone. I'm Chuck.
I'm Thomas.
And today we're going to take a look at our early look at the 2023 Las Vegas Raiders.
Yes.
So this is part of our early look series. We'll be doing the Broncos, Chiefs, and then eventually the Chargers once again. Roster review, but we'll get started with the 2023 Las Vegas Raiders.
Yes.
Just a reminder, this is a father-son hobby where we focus on team building for the Los Angeles Chargers. We are not experts. We do not discuss gambling or betting, and we try to stay away from hot takes.
Yes. Which we
Awesome.
do really well with. But
All right, so the Raiders, they are in the second year for the Patriots Way in Las Vegas with Josh McDaniels as their head coach and Dave Ziegler as their general manager. You know, a team that came in and or a regime that came in and they kind of missed the playoffs last year.
yes.
And
They completely missed the playoffs.
yeah, so not sure how this is working out for them, but they're back again. Obviously, the Raiders are still paying John Gruden. They can't move on from Josh McDaniels because then they would be paying 3 head coaches.
3.
Yeah, so if they fired Josh McDaniels, they'd have to hire a new head coach.
Oh.
So they would be paying John Gruden, Josh McDaniels, and
Yeah.
whoever the new coach is. I mean,
I kind of wish Rich Bisaccia
was still the coach, but yeah, he's
Still the
now the
coach.
special teams coach up in Green Bay. I know Tom Brady has deep pockets, but he's only a minority owner,
Yes.
and I don't even think he wants to be paying 3 coaches.
Well, he might also be playing for the Raiders.
Might, you never know.
Might.
All right, so lots of signings, if you will. But the big story for the Las Vegas Raiders in free agency or leading up to free agency, if you will, the release of Derek Carr.
Yes. They did him dirty.
He is now a member of the New Orleans Saints. The Saints seem pretty happy to have him. Obviously, no one was going to bail out the Raiders and take on their contract. You know, why not sign him to your own deal? They went ahead, they declined the 5th-year option on Josh Jacobs last year, but then now they're tagging him in his 5th year. So I think they're...
It's confusing.
Yeah.
It's very, you have a breakout running back. Why don't sign him to a 2-year deal?
Well, I think the confusing part is that he was a good running back before Josh McDaniels got there.
Yes.
And yeah, you just basically send really mixed messages to a player, to a team, to a franchise, to the fans.
To the fan base.
So they did bring back Amir Abdullah. And then obviously the other big news, after McDaniels decides to leak the details of Darren Waller's wedding, obviously lots of things going on there between Darren Waller and that new regime, and now Darren Waller is a New York Giant.
You just don't link a man's wedding. You just don't.
Yeah. Terrible decision there. They went ahead and brought in a couple Patriot wide receivers, Jacoby Myers, Philip Dorsett. They brought in the safety Marcus Epps from the Super Bowl losing team, Philadelphia Eagles. But
that might be the only smart thing that Josh McDaniels has ever done.
They went ahead and signed and brought in Robert Spillane, a linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers who was on the field, but not a
stuff.
key contributor. Well, I mean, special teams guy
Yeah.
and, kind of a backup, if you will.
Yeah.
Signed with a question mark, Jimmy Garoppolo. Apparently there's an addendum, but
Yeah.
but Jimmy's still part of the team and appears to be their quarterback.
Of the present, I'm not saying future.
Yeah, it was a 3-year deal. I think there's some exits to it. Obviously, there's the injury addendum where they can exit. Jerry Tillery is back with them, so
Sure.
Former first-round pick of the Los Angeles Chargers. Yeah, I mean, I look at this list and Jaquan Johnson's on it, David Long Jr., Austin Hooper.
It's a bunch of.
Duke Shelley played well for the Bears
It's a bunch of.
in 400 snaps.
It's a bunch of players they scraped off
I don't know.
the bottom.
I don't know if I would go with scraped off the bottom. I mean, these are NFL players. We don't want to.
Well,
but
deep down the rosters of their teams.
and they went ahead and signed DeAndre Carter, freeing up the jersey number 1 for the Los Angeles Chargers
Yes.
for our first round pick this year. So,
Thank you.
yeah, just a lot of strange signings throughout. The headline on this page is probably Greg Van Roten, guard,
Who?
formerly of the Bills. So,
Okay. So, Bills player.
yeah, plays for the played for the Bills and did well.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at their draft picks this year. Round 1, pick 7, defensive end, Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech. Height, weight, speed guy.
Height, weight, speed.
Obviously, lots of potential.
Yes.
I thought this was, a good fit for him. I don't know how, a team with the needs of the Las Vegas Raiders, with Max Crosby, with Chandler Jones on the roster already, did they really need to go edge defensive end at pick number 7? Should they have traded back?
Probably should have, but Chandler Jones is pretty old.
He is old, and this lays a plan for his replacement, similar to what the Chargers did in their draft at a few positions. So you can't really hate this pick all that much. You just don't know how far it's going to move the needle.
Yeah.
For the Raiders in 2023. Obviously, long term, Tyree Wilson is likely to be a very solid NFL player. But, did the Raiders need him at pick 7?
No, probably not. But it was a good replacement.
Yeah.
For
It's always good to plan for the future.
Yeah.
Round 2, pick 35, they moved up and grabbed tight end Michael Mayer. A lot of early mocks had Michael Mayer first round. I think maybe some of the tape led to him sliding to the second round,
Yes.
but
It's a good pickup when you can get a first round talent graded, but he slips to the second round.
yeah. They were aggressive in getting him. They wanted him, obviously, so this helps to replace Darren Waller's snaps, and
Yes.
Foster Moreau's gone. So they obviously wanted him. Should be a good fit for Michael Mayer as well, and he should see plenty of
Snaps.
this year. And he has Austin Hooper in the room with him.
Yes.
I'm sure Michael Mayer is a very professional guy, but it doesn't hurt to have a veteran teach him how to be a professional.
Yes.
Defensive tackle Byron Young. This is the Byron Young out of Alabama at pick 70. At pick 100, wide receiver Trey Tucker out of Cincinnati, a small-ish, 180-ish pounds wide receiver. I'm sure there's speed there. I guess this is what they needed.
Yeah.
In the wide receiver, and we'll take a look at how it lays out. But then cornerback Jacorian Bennett, pick 135, quarterback Aiden O'Connell.
We'll get into him later.
And another slightly dirty move by the Vegas Raiders. They draft Aiden O'Connell in round 4 at pick 135, and they go ahead and slap the number 4 jersey on him.
Yeah.
So they it's kind of
Aiden O'Connell. Did he have it in college?
he wore number 16 in college, so it's not his number.
So,
From college, I don't know what he wore as a kid, but this is a little shady to just
So
10 seconds after Derek Carr leaves, hand out his jersey.
So
But I wouldn't expect anything
less.
Yeah.
So my question is, did anyone have
16.
number 16 on?
Yeah,
the
we'll take a
Raiders?
look. Maybe I'm sure some wide receiver picked it up or something. Pick 170. This is a lot of picks. 9 picks in total. Pick 170 safety Christopher Smith out of Georgia. I think we saw his name a little bit higher in mock drafts, and a little surprised to see him fall to 170.
Yes.
I'm sure there were reasons, but
Georgia player.
Yeah, Georgia player at the back end for their secondary. So pick 203, round 6, Amari Burney. Don't know a whole lot about him. And then at pick 231, defensive tackle Nesta Jade Silvero.
Sure.
Okay. If we look at the offensive side of the ball, your quarterbacks are likely to be Jimmy G, Brian Hoyer, formerly of the Patriots, and many stops along the way.
Nice.
Really helping bring that playbook to life in the quarterback room. Mentor, all those good things. And then, Aiden O'Connell should make this roster as your emergency third string backup.
I think we mentioned it. I think there's going to be Aiden O'Connell as your second.
Yeah, I mean, he's a rookie, so you slot him in at the third slot here. Brian Hoyer's going to dress and be your backup. But as we've talked before, we think Aiden O'Connell is going to get on the field this year.
Yes.
It just seems like a very Josh McDaniels thing to do.
He's the most Tom Brady.
Yeah, I think I just see Josh McDaniels trying to prove to everyone
that
how smart he is in drafting Aiden O'Connell and getting him on the field. And he might be. He might be great.
He might be a freaking
We'll see.
savant and a freaking genius.
I mean, I do like the fit for Aiden O'Connell and Josh McDaniels. It's a third, fourth round pick? Fourth round pick 135. So good on him to take a flyer on him and see what he can get out of him.
Yes.
And then the running backs, you have Josh Jacobs tagged, Amir Abdullah. He's re-signed, so they want him there. More third down, I'm guessing, back. Brandon Bolden is still there, short yardage, and Zamir White. So it's kind of a crowded running back room, lots of mouths to feed there.
Yes.
But I'm guessing Josh Jacobs gets the
running back.
most of the carries.
Yes.
And just so you know, Josh Jacobs changed his uniform number this year. He's going from number 28 to number 8.
Okay.
I think that's going to look pretty stellar, if
Sure.
nothing else.
I do think this more looks like a running back by committee.
I think they're going to have different roles, but I think they're going to feed Jacobs. It'd be interesting to see what they do with Jacobs after this year, if they let him walk or tag. I mean, tagging him again would be expensive.
This looks like a running back by committee.
Understood. Yeah, but you don't. If you're going full running back by committee,
You don't tag a...
yeah, you don't tag a guy and pay him that much. I mean, if it was full blown running back by committee, you would have just let him walk.
Yeah.
So, at fullback, you bring back Jakob Johnson. Once again, spent time with the Patriots. At tight end, the rookie, Michael Mayer, obviously he should see the field. He should see it plenty. He should be their number one tight end.
Yes.
If he doesn't get the most snaps of this group,
there's a problem.
Something went wrong. As we mentioned, Austin Hooper, there in the room with them. They bring in O.J. Howard, big time prospect coming out of Alabama, whose career hasn't blossomed the way that most people thought it would.
Yes.
I'm not going to lie. I'm not very familiar with these other 3 tight ends. I imagine you'll see Mayer, Hooper, and Howard on the final 53. At wide receiver, Devontae Adams is back for his second year, this time without Derek Carr. Here's your number 16. They gave it to Jacoby Myers. Jacoby wore that number in New England, so
okay.
They didn't save it for the rookie quarterback.
So you would rather give it to a Patriots. I almost want to call him a homer at this point. You would rather give him to the Patriots players that are...
Yeah, so Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow will still fill that slot. DeAndre Carter is in the mix. I'm guessing, he'll be their full-time kick returner, punt returner. Yeah. And, we were surprised by how well, when called upon last year for the Chargers, that he really stepped in and played well for the Chargers last year, I thought. And maybe he can continue on that path with the Raiders, but really holding down that returner spot. Another Patriot here, Philip Dorsett. Cam Sims, I think he was with the Commanders. Keelan Cole, who was with the Raiders last year. DJ Turner, this is wide receiver DJ Turner, not cornerback. You see Trey Tucker on this list, so, are they going to carry 6 wide receivers? Is Philip Dorsett going to make this team? Where does Cam Sims and Keelan Cole all fit in? Does Trey Tucker go to the practice squad? So that's a fairly crowded receiver room, if you will.
Yes.
Offensive line, at tackle, they're pretty decent with Colton Miller, a very high-ranked left tackle for them, and Jermaine Illuminor. But up the middle, Dylan Parham will go into his second year, played well last year, but, there's probably room for improvement there. I think Dylan Parham has room to grow.
Yes.
So I think you'll see him there. But, expect to see some strides in his performance in his second year. Andre James, and then at the moment it's Alex Bars, according to PFF. But, you got Greg Van Roten that came over. Did they get him on the field sooner rather than later? Is he an upgrade over Alex Bars? Those will have to be seen. But
yes.
A lot of, outside of the tackles, I think they got some question marks, and And then, another thing, they spent a first-round pick a couple years ago on Alex Leatherwood.
Yes.
He is no
Gone.
longer on this roster.
That was a waste of a first round pick.
They seem to do that, right? Because in the Cleveland Farrell, Josh Jacobs, and who's the other guy that's not and Jonathan Abrams. Josh Jacobs is the only one still on the roster.
Yes.
So.
The other two from 2020s.
Yeah, crazy.
Totally separate
Crazy how the
reasons, but other than those two, they seem to waste first round picks.
And, John Gruden had a significant impact on this roster. Khalil Mack leaving, Amari Cooper leaving. And then, just a few years later, it looks like Josh Daniels and Dave Ziegler are breaking this thing down again and kind of retooling. And I don't know as their draft fits what their needs were, but let's see. Moving on to the defense. I mean, at the moment, you got Baleal Nichols and Jerry Tillery slated to start.
Sure.
And not a lot of recognizable names behind them. Defensive end, obviously a position of strength. They got, tremendous talent at this position with Max Crosby, obviously high motor guy who's always on, always playing with his hair on fire.
Yes.
And getting after the quarterback opposite him, Chandler Jones. I think we all have seen his career and kind of see, him possibly getting towards the end of it. Just, Father Time is undefeated. Bringing in Tyree Wilson.
Well, unless you're LeBron James.
Well, eventually Father Time will get him too.
Yes.
But
I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, I mean, a real decent rotation here at defensive end. They should really get after quarterbacks. But, what else do they have to do in addition to getting after the quarterback with that defensive line? And then we're going to look at these linebackers. You have at linebacker Divine Diablo, who had played safety in college and is more safety than linebacker. I mean, he's not a Brian Urlacher
plug and play.
Middle linebacker. He's more, lighter on his feet, probably.
Yeah.
Robert Spillane, Luke Masterson, Darian Butler. I mean,
this is confusing.
Yeah, it's just really strange. I mean, like we said, you're going to get lots of pressure off the edge, but what else are you getting? I mean, and if the offense challenges those guys to stop the run or to do something other than just, chase down quarterbacks, is this defense, is this front seven going to hold up?
No.
Yeah, it's really strange. On the back end, it's an overhauled secondary. They brought in Duke Shelley and David Long Jr. Some names here that were around with the Raiders before, Amik Robertson and Brandon Faison. But, nothing really jumps out at you in the cornerback room. At safety, like we said, Marcus Epps was brought in from the Philadelphia Eagles. They do have one returner in Trayvon Mooring. Let's see how this plays out. They did get some run from Isaiah Palomao. When it comes to specialists, though, with A.J. Cole and Daniel Carlson, they are both top-notch.
Yes.
Specialists.
So really good special teams, not really good defense, subpar offense.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this thing comes together.
Are they going field goalless to death?
Potentially. Yeah. I think that's a great strategy. So just, as part of their draft class, this is Tyree Wilson.
Sure.
This is likely why they drafted Tyree Wilson.
Yes.
I mean, that guy's a Planet Theory guy. That arm length is insane.
Insane.
And this is potentially the scariest thing in a Raiders uniform in years.
Other than Mad Max.
I think it's including Mad Max. But
No.
you think Mad Max is scarier?
Yeah.
How's that number 9 look on Tyree Wilson? Looks pretty good.
Good.
Not giving the Raiders too much credit, but yeah. We'll see how it fits. Obviously, was a long-term pick to replace Chandler Jones. But that is Tyree Wilson. All right, our big 3 topics for the Raiders. Number 1 is Jimmy's health. We hinted around the addendum in the contract.
Yes. If you really need an addendum in the contract, is he going to help you this year? I don't think so.
Well, I think it's more around the addendum gets them out of a $70 million contract.
Yes.
And if his foot is healthy, then Jimmy's playing. And
it's like the Cardinals almost, but without the video games.
Yeah, but he failed a physical. The addendum was included. Then he signed. Huge credit to Mike Florio. We gotta mention that.
Huge.
If you don't, he'll come after you.
Like Florio. Yes, huge.
Yeah, so we think Jimmy's health is the biggest issue. Obviously, quarterback starts everything, and if you're going Brian Hoyer or Aiden O'Connell for most of the season, might be difficult to win a lot of games.
Yes, but I think Josh McDaniels wants Aiden O'Connell on the field.
Eventually, but I think if Jimmy gets hurt early,
yes,
you go to Brian Hoyer.
Okay.
And then, but I think there's going to be a transition as this team kind of starts to look like they're going to miss the playoffs. I'm not going to say they're going to fully miss the playoffs, but I think he may try to see what he has in Aiden O'Connell.
Yes.
And try and get him on the field. But, the beginning of the season is all about Jimmy's health and getting him on the field.
On the field.
All right, number 2, Devontae's happiness.
Yes.
So, part of that story last year was he's playing with his college, quarterback, his best friend. So that's,
sunshine
part of the reason
and rainbows and Skittles.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason he ended up a Raider. I'm sure there's other things. He's closer to California. But, would he have signed with the Raiders if he knew that Derek Carr wouldn't be around in year 2?
Probably
Maybe.
not.
Maybe not. I don't know if there's any other teams overly interested in Devontae Adams. Obviously the talent, but, trading for him and then signing him to, a top wide receiver contract. So the biggest question that we have is, does he stay happy?
Yes.
If Jimmy's hurt and you have Brian Hoyer, Aiden O'Connell throwing to him and it's not synced up, and does he get frustrated? Does he request a trade?
His football mortality is coming up.
Well, yeah.
His football career is at the end. Towards the end
than the beginning.
Yeah,
he still has a few years. But yeah, does he want to be a part of this Raiders retooling as he sees this thing being built? does he lose target share to Jacoby Myers?
I don't.
Maybe.
I think that's the dumbest thing you've ever said.
Okay. All right.
I think he's more talented.
Yeah, he's definitely more talented, but in the offense, if they start trying to spread the ball around and his share goes down, and
Okay.
in the Patriots way, next man up or whatever they always say,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Does he stay happy or does he want to move on and see somewhere else?
Yes.
And this year, not next year. And then the last thing that we were looking at was
Lost.
where is this team going?
They are lost
They sign
in the
Jimmy to a 3-year deal, injury. They have one of the best wide receivers, but,
he's unhappy.
that we touched on the draft class not necessarily filling in all the needs on the roster. I mean, out of the draft and out of free agency and out of the whole offseason, you have the middle of the offensive line is not great. The interior of the defensive line is not great. The linebackers are not great.
Yes.
I mean, they're NFL players, and compared to other NFL players that are great, we wouldn't put them in that category. But
yes, they are in the twilight zone. They are not in quarterback hell. They're not going to a Super Bowl. They are in the twilight zone, in the middle.
lost.
Lost and confused and just...
And maybe I will always think that this team is lost because of Josh McDaniels' Patriots Way out west and him making moves that
make absolutely no sense.
And, I think the Patriots get away with it a little bit because they did win 6 Super Bowls, all that stuff, blah, blah, blah.
And we've seen this before with the Broncos.
But, I mean, if you go and you look at
Josh McDaniels,
Bill Belichick's draft history, I would say it's good, not great. And there's been some giant misses along the way.
Yes.
And I'm not
overly excited.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So, yeah, let us know your thoughts on where you see the Raiders. I'm sure plenty of Raiders fans hate watch this thing.
Yes.
And I'm sure we'll get some comments in the comment section about how terrible we are at podcasting. And that's fine. I'm okay with that.
That's fine.
We
just know football better.
I don't know about that. We just bought microphones and this equipment, and we're doing a podcast. I wouldn't say that we.
I'm not saying that we know football better. I'm saying the general Raiders fan.
Oh, yeah. Who knows?
In a Raiders bubble.
Yeah.
Aren't we all in just our little bubbles?
All in our own little bubbles. Yeah, we tried to sneak outside our own little bubble today and talk about the Raiders and their off season. It'll definitely be interesting to see if we are completely wrong about this team.
Yeah.
And
we might.
And if they play way past our expectations, we'll have to eat a little crow.
Yeah.
Oh well. Wouldn't be the first time. Probably won't be the last, huh?
Yes.
All right. What do you say we get out of here? I've talked enough Raiders.
Yeah.
For one day, I gotta go wash my hands or something.
I've talked enough Raiders as well.
Do us a favor. Follow us on Twitter at LAC Outside Zone. On this YouTube channel, Chargers Outside Zone. Please subscribe, like the video, and
we have our own website.
leave a comment if you would. We do have our own website, chargersoutsidezone.com. And if you get a chance, feel free to send us an email, chargersoutsidezone@gmail.com. We try to do episodes every Tuesday and Saturday, but we've been struggling with that a little bit. We're going to get our schedule under control.
Yes.
And with that, have a great week. Take care.
Bye.